I'm Chris. I'm one of the coaches at the Six Pack Dad Tribe. And today I'm interviewing one of my long-standing clients, Wayne Kennedy. How's it going, Wayne?
Doing good, Chris. Good to be here with you today.
Yeah, thanks for taking the opportunity to come and share your experience with us. First and foremost, people don't know you, so would love for you to introduce yourself and tell us more about what you do for work, who you are, where you live, all that kind of stuff.
You bet. I live in beautiful Omaha, Nebraska, and I'm a engineering consultant. I teach railroads how to save diesel fuel. The industry burns approaching 4 billion gallons of diesel fuel a year, so you just teach them how to save a couple percentage points, and it goes a long way to the bottom line. I'm married with 5 children, two of the children married, so two grandchildren, one on the way. All of the children out of the home. Been an empty nester just about a year now, and that gives me a little more time to focus on health and diet and exercise, and that's just the way it should be.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I never heard of a railroad engineer until I had met you, and I think that's super cool what you do. Not many out there, huh?
It is very niche, yeah. So I have kind of an exclusive clientele, and I love helping them serve the industry and saving diesel fuel. That's really what it's all about, being kind to the environment.
Yeah, that's awesome. So give us your story, kind of leading up to you joining the tribe. You have your whole work life now. Things have settled down, and you were able to take the opportunity to join the tribe and have a lot of success. What was that story leading up to the joining the tribe, and then why did you eventually pull the trigger and join?
Right. Yeah, I've always been kind of physically active. I wouldn't say always at the top of my game in terms of fitness. And I was getting really tired of kind of losing and regaining the same 15 to 20 pounds. I'd kind of yo-yo between, in the 190s down to at the best, 170s, but could never consistently stay down. And when I tried doing, some intensive exercise, weight training, I'd always, develop some sort of an injury, overuse. So it was a little frustrating. I also would do a lot of research on, macronutrients and calories, and I found a lot of conflicting information uh, doing the research. So about a year and a half ago, I started interviewing a couple of different fitness coach folks, and Tyson was one of them. And I really liked his approach because I really felt that of all the folks that I interviewed, his was the most consistent. He had broken it down into really easy to understand and apply steps. And he basically said, Wayne, we're in this for the long haul. We succeed when you succeed. And I just really was drawn to that approach. So about 18 months now, and have had a really great journey. Haven't quite attained the goal yet, but we're probably three-quarters of the way there. And the last quarter is kind of more challenging, just getting that last 5 pounds of body fat to go the way of the dodo. That's kind of the goal for the next 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, yeah, we've been working at that. So yeah, over the last year and a half, what have your results been, if you want to share that?
Yeah. Uh, I Obviously the first step was getting rid of the excess fat. And I know from a number standpoint, it was probably over 40 pounds. And now I'm cut that in half. So down to 20 pounds, looking to get to 15 pounds of just pure fat. From a muscle standpoint, I probably was started in the low to mid 70s in terms of pounds, and now I'm shooting about mid 80s. So gained, 5 to 10 pounds of muscle. I really, at this point, I'm really chasing body composition. So I want to maximize muscle, minimize fat. And one of the things I like to chase is a muscle to fat ratio, MFR. And when I started, I think I was at about a 2, which is horrible. And I've been above 4 now for a couple of months. I even peaked a little bit above 5 for a week or so. And the goal long term is 6, basically you get up to 90 pounds muscle, 15 pounds of fat. And that'd be easily a 10% body fat percentage, which would be kind of the gold medal for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Never ever been anywhere close to that.
Yeah, and you started out as a relatively lean guy. You didn't have,
Right.
50, 60, 70 pounds to lose. And it's arguably harder for someone starting at that point to get to lose a lot of body fat and get super lean, versus someone who's, overweight and has 50, 60 pounds to lose. And so, yeah, I wanted to pull up your Google Sheet because of all my clients, you are someone who tracks the most of everything. And so I wanted to kind of share what you've been tracking and also kind of review your progress in the numbers. I think that would be good for people to see. So you started at 180, August 2024, 180.2, 21.7% body fat on your at-home scale. You had your measurements were 42 on the chest, 12.5 on the biceps, 37 inches on the waist. And then fast forward a year and a half. Now you're currently at 167, 11.8% body fat per the home scale. Last waist measurement was 34. And then if we go back, we've gone through a few phases. So we've done a fat loss phase. That's what we started with. That's where kind of these lines are at. Then we went into a muscle growth phase, like colloquially known as like a bulk phase, and we're back to a cutting phase, and we also had a maintenance phase in there as well. So we're kind of doing, like you said, it's the recomp. It's not so much just continually losing body fat. It's doing both because that was something you needed, was both body fat loss and muscle growth, and muscle gain to get your body fat percentage down. And so the first fat loss phase, you got all the way down to 167 from that 180, and then 11.9%. And then your last waist measurement was 32.5. So almost 5 full inches off the waist in that first fat loss phase. Then you actually lost weight as we turned around, and went into a higher calorie muscle growth lifting focused phase. Went from 165, got up into the low 180s. So it's like where you started, but now body fat percentage is much different.
Right.
Waist got as high as 35, but again, never went up to the 37. And so with the muscle growth phase, it tends to come a little bit of body fat. It got to the point where you were like, I don't really like this, right? Like talk to us about what you were feeling at that point.
Yeah, it was, I mean, the fat loss phase was challenging just because of the calorie restrictions, but it was very effective. Just kind of torch that fat. The bulk phase was a lot more enjoyable because I wasn't hungry all the time. But the one downside is, as I was building muscle, I was also slowly gaining fat. I really didn't want that. So then, we got to a certain point of higher muscle, and then you and I kind of decided as a team to get back into a fat loss mode, and we've been doing that probably the past 6 months, and I'm very committed, to get down to a level that I haven't been before. Really the in-home scale, I want to get that high single digit. And I mean, the in-home scale probably understates. So in real life, if I did a DEXA scan, it'd probably be in the 10 to 12% range.
Yeah, did you get a DEXA scan at some point?
I did. That was about a year ago. And for someone like me in the 60s, DEXA scan can tend to estimate. So I think at that point it was showing I was at like an 18. I probably was more like a 14.
Right. And I always tell people take, what the DEXA scan shows you and take what your at-home scale shows you. And, they're going to say two
Average.
different things,
Right.
but the trend is still, and the loss over time is, you can, again, compare that to the DEXA. So, you still lost 10% body fat over the course of that initial
Right.
fat loss phase. And then now a year and a half later, now
Right.
maintaining that. Um, whether you started at, let's say, 28% on the DEXA, now you're at 18, right? It's still a 10% loss. And so,
Right.
yeah, there's a little bit of inaccuracy from scale to scale. But I remember the DEXA scan was kind of one of those things where you were like, what?
Yeah. It was an unpleasant surprise until I did some research that said, yeah, people in their 60s, it tends to overestimate probably as high as 4%. So at least in my case. And I did have one week, from all this fun tracking where the in-home scale actually showed like I think a 9.5 was the lowest I've ever gotten. And that happened to be about the time that I had gotten a new carbon fiber road bike. I really am into cycling. And I ran the wheels off of that thing because it was so much fun. It's so light compared to my previous non-carbon fiber bike. And I must have driven a couple hundred miles that first week, and it was the summer. So that was just torching body fat, and I got down to that 9.5%. And I want to get back to that and even a little bit lower. And then that'll mean in actuality, I'm probably somewhere between 10 to 12% body fat. And I'll probably get another DEXA scan at that point to see what that tells me.
Yeah, that'll be insightful. But yeah, that was 9/15/2025. So earlier this year you hit that 9.5. And yeah, I think what your tracker shows is this is real progress. This is what progress looks like in reality over a long time, right? Anybody can lose body fat short term, but a year and a half, life happens. And
Right.
there's going to be ups and downs. But what's awesome is that again, after a year and a half, you're still, this is almost tying your all-time low. When you first did that fat loss phase, you're at 11.9, now at 11.8. In between that, lots has happened, surgeries, medical things, there's holidays, and
Yep.
it's awesome knowing that before you were on that roller coaster and now not so much. The roller coasters might be a little bit tinier, but again, it's not swinging 20 pounds in either direction. And so
Right.
it I think it seems like it's become a real lifestyle for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And one that isn't difficult to follow at this point because it really is a habit. It's been well honed the past 18 months. I wouldn't know what to do with myself unless I was, tracking my carbs and getting on the scale and lifting weights every day. It's really become a habit, a good
Yeah.
habit.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like I said, you track more than anyone ever. So I just want to show people what you've been up to over the last year and a half. So we in the tribe of people track some notes, their waist measurement, chest, biceps, their weight, body fat percentage, and some photos. But you have added pretty much anything and everything you can track. And I love this because we're big fans of the tribe of what gets measured gets managed. And you're measuring everything and you're managing everything. And that's why you've had tremendous results. So you got protein, carbs, fat, sugar, calories net. You got your exercise log, average daily steps, active energy calories, average daily exercise minutes, total cycling miles, all rings closed per your Apple Watch, right?
Yep.
Resting heart rate, VO2 max, muscle in pounds, fat in pounds, muscle to fat ratio, which you talked about earlier, which is actually something I hadn't really ever, that's not a ratio I'd ever heard of prior to you coming up. I don't know if you came up with that or researched online, but basically it's the, fat versus muscle in your body in that ratio.
Right.
So it's cool to put that in a number. And then these are my favorite thing. I don't even know what I'm looking at, but it's awesome because it shows progress.
Just
But
just some excellent trend charts, from the very start at the left to current day at the right. And it just shows, week by week, how the journey is going. And I love it because, even if I regress a little bit, whether it's holidays or travel or something that just is part of life, I can still look at that overall chart showing full 18 months and say, I'm still in the top 20% of what I fought hard to be in. I haven't regressed back to zero. I'm still in the top 20%. If I'm down a percentage or two, not a big deal. And within another week or two, I'm shooting for, getting in that top 10% and then just making all-time new record highs, whether that be amount of muscle or small amount of increasingly small amounts of body fat. I am going to celebrate the day that I am introduced to my six-pack abs because I don't think I've ever seen them my entire life.
yes. Yeah, and I just love these charts because it shows that you're on that path. And again, like this is real progress. And we love that's something as a coach I'm always trying to teach people is zoom out. Like if you look at the week to week, you can get so depressed and caught up in, oh, these numbers went down. I'm not making progress. And it's like, hold on, let's zoom out because this is a lifelong pursuit. And look, like there's been ups and downs here on the muscle to fat ratio, analysis, the line graph here, and it's continued to go up. Again, there's peaks and valleys, but the trend line goes up. Same thing with
Right.
muscle here. You got fat, you have body fat percentage. Everything's going in the right direction. Weight versus week in phase. It gets even more complex, at least to me. um, it's pretty cool. You have your this one. Yeah,
I'm,
explain this one.
yeah, uh, engineers take a lot of courses in statistics, and I use statistics a lot in my work. I have the 30 plus years plus that I got my degree, and what you're looking at there is just a lot of different correlations. So I feed that spreadsheet and all the different things I measure into a statistical software tool, and I just say, compare all of the measures against themselves, show me where the correlations are. Now, correlation doesn't always mean causation, but in this case, it usually does in terms of, I am if I'm looking at a linear relationship of fat versus body fat percentage, it's going to be almost a straight line. If I'm looking at the difference between the amount of muscle with the amount of fat, that's going to be highly correlated. As one's going down, the other's going up. So same with the MFR, highly correlated to where I am on the journey, and that's kind of the fun one because one of those charts that you showed, it basically is a polynomial regression and kind of a curved line. It's not a straight line, and I can see where I am, in the upper quadrant of that chart, and it's in the top 10% of all the data points. So I know I'm living in a really good spot, and I'm just trying to get to the top end of that curve and then continually add, make that curve go into territories that I haven't been yet, which is below that 10% body fat on the at-home scale.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so cool what you've been able to put together and track and keep that larger picture in mind. And that's something I admire about you because I don't know. Again, a year and a half you've been tracking all this nonstop and just been dedicated to constantly refining like this process and your routine and really shooting not just for like average results, but like exceptional above average results is what you're going for. And it only gets harder as you age. And again, that's super admirable that you're just after this and not giving up and wanting to achieve the best physique of your adult life. It's awesome. So yeah,
Well,
congrats.
yeah, it is very self-motivating. I had some specific goals that are all around overall health, and overall health is longevity, and someone who's in his 60s like me, obviously, that the number of decades ahead I can count on one hand. Uh, but if it's 3 decades, if I'm living into my 90s, I want those to be very productive. I want to live with a high quality of life. And that's why, I want my resting heart rate to be 55 or below. Yeah, I think when I started, it was in the 70s, not very healthy. I want my VO2 max to be above 40. It's currently maybe touching mid 30s. So I got a ways to go there. Um, those are all things that just help predict not just longevity in terms of how long you live, but also the quality of life that you have. I've got two grandchildren, one on the way. I'm sure in the next 10 to 15 years, I'll hit double digits. You want to be able to run and play and jump and have fun with your grandchildren just the same you did as with your children when I was in my 30s and 40s.
Yeah, no, I love that's a good reminder because the six pack, 10% body fat, that's all cool, but that stuff right there is more meaningful. And would you say that's your why behind this?
100%. Yeah, 100%. I want to be the fittest version of myself that I've ever been, and age is just a number. And I love to cycle. I love to walk. I haven't really been much of a runner because I want to preserve my joints. So I prefer cycling to running. But those are things that I love to do. Gets me into the great outdoors. Uh, communing with nature. My wife likes to do the walking as well. I think I've almost got her interested in cycling too, which would be cool.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And yeah, a good reminder of that. Yeah, there's so much more to getting healthier, losing body fat, your health, and then of course your family and being there for them long term. So yeah, great reminder. To wrap up, what are some of your key lessons and insights that you would maybe share to someone thinking about joining the tribe?
Um, you know, Tyson and his crack team of coaches, such as yourself, you've put together such a good program in terms of it's it's not rocket science. It's easy to understand, but it's something that I couldn't have put together on my own, no matter how much research I did, because I just didn't have the expertise. And you need to know what to research, how to research. I don't have a degree in this. I'm happy with the degree I do have. I'm very happy to learn from others in this area that need help with. So it's such a structured approach. It's very malleable. I mean, you obviously have allowed me to go all these different directions with what I track. That motivates me to continually make progress. So it's a hands-on approach. It's flexible. It's portable. Uh, you can customize it however you want, and it's really very structured in terms of diet, in terms of exercise. You're prioritizing the right things, and I just plan on being a tribe member for a very, very long time because whatever heights I reach, there will be other vistas ahead, new goals to make, new horizons to conquer. Maybe I get to 10% body fat, and then I want to do something else that helps achieve some, best fitness for myself in some other area, and we just keep mushing forward. I have a good friend who's in his 80s, and he was a military guy, and he has always lifted weights his entire life. He's in his 80s, and he looks like he's in his 60s, and he's in really, really good health. And I want to be him when I'm in my 80s.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a
I
really,
love
really
meeting
good
guys like
example.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, because it really shows that like simple things like just having a consistent exercise routine, a consistent diet can really make or break your what you look like as you age and how you function. And so, yeah, it's good to have those people in your life and have that example like, oh wow, you can like be fit as an 80-year-old. So,
right.
yeah. What is one thing that you felt like really unlocked a lot of progress for you in the tribe?
I think, your coaching in terms of uh, particularly when we got into the muscle building phase, the bulking phase, your kind guidance and coaching in terms of putting together a really good program. Using the equipment that I have, I have a at-home gym, so I've got some equipment. Some of it's somewhat unique. Something called a SoloFlex, which is kind of a resistance band, kind of similar to a Bowflex, but I think older. I've had that for 30, 30 some years. And you really tailored it around the equipment that I had, which was great. I think you unlocked the try to get 8 to 10,000 steps a day. That helped bump me off a plateau. That was also very important. So that's just part of my lifestyle now. And I learned with the Apple Watch, the closing the rings, whatever those goals are that you've set for yourself. For me, it's 800 calories burned, at least by the watch. I'm probably not burning quite that many. Uh, 90 minutes of some form of exercise, 12 to 14 hours standing. So all those types of activity goals, I've found, through tracking on the spreadsheet that the weeks that I close those rings, uh, as many days as possible. The goal is always 7 days out of seven are the days that I make more progress. And then the macro as well, just kind of dialing in a cut phase. The macros are going to be completely different than a bulk phase. So you were very helpful there in terms of dialing that in. I tried to do that on my own, I probably would have failed because doing research on my own, it's just kind of all over the map. So you folks were great in just giving information that I can rely on, that I had confidence in, and that long term actually proved to work.
Yeah, no, and it's really been a team effort because with all the data you've tracked, it's really helped me troubleshoot because when I have that much data, I'm able to look at, okay, he's doing XYZ super well. Where's the gaps? And so yeah, early on this, I remember that the steps was a gap I identified. We added that in, busted through that plateau. And then yeah, more recently, we were looking back like, okay, we're kind of sitting in that upper 160s, lower 170s. Fat does not seem to be moving. When did it move? And I looked back through, the year and a half, and I found that it was like 2 or 3 months that you had a really consistent progress. You were closing your rings almost every single day, every single week for those couple months. And I just was like, hey, let's try this out. And that's kind of kickstarted things again. So yeah, I just appreciate you tracking all that and most of all, just being a humble, coachable client.
I love being my own lab rat.
Yes, yes,
I'm my favorite experiment.
yeah. It's been great. It's been great to help you with that endeavor. Well, thank you for taking the time today to share all that with us. Any parting last words?
I think if I haven't communicated it already, I plan on being a tribe member for life, and I plan on getting to places that I haven't been yet, and really looking forward to the journey. And very grateful to Tyson and to you, Chris, for all the helpful guidance along the way. I almost can say, factually that my finding and joining Six Pack Dad Tribe has really helped me easily put 5 to 10 years not only on my lifespan, but I think they're going to be quality years as well.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thanks, Chris.